Hey there, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to, I guess, the first edition of Milkshakes with Michael. Hey, Flo. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Last week, I did my first live here on Substack. I called it the first pancake because the first pancake, actually, that will be an episode of Hooligan come Friday. The first pancake, when you make pancakes, is a little rough. It doesn't come out all maybe perfect, whatever definition of perfect you have, like the subsequent pancakes you make, but you gotta make the first one. Gotta make the first one. And so the first one may not be your best one, but you know what? You throw some butter and some maple syrup on that sucker, and it tastes pretty delicious. So we're back, and I want to talk to you about a few different things. One, I changed my name. I think I can only do this once on Substack. But I dabbled in Substack last year. I was trying to figure out what all the hubbub is, and I was trying to think, like, what should I do with it? What what would be my name? And so I originally came up with Resilience with Michael, because my story is chock full with resilience stories and lessons. And I thought, okay, that would be perfect. All right. But at times the word resilience is it's overused, and, so I was like, "I don't know." So then I changed it to, Motivation with Michael, because I do believe we're living together in this inflection point, and sometimes it's hard. We do need some motivation. I know there's a lot of people out there on the interweb that talk about, "You don't need motivation, you need consistency, you need discipline." Yeah, the thing is, we need it all, folks. We need all of it. Sometimes we do need a little motivation. Sometimes we need some inspiration. And yes, we do need some discipline and we need some consistency. We really need it all. And every situation calls for a certain ingredient, a certain skill that we have. So we try to be well rounded. We try to train for life because some days you don't need any motivation. But other days you might need a little bit more consistency. So I called my Substack profile Motivation with Michael. And then I got thinking as we went through the month of January, because what I've done is I've only put my blog that I put out every Sunday here on Substack and again on LinkedIn, because I do a lot of executive coaching and I want those people to read my stuff. And I also put it on my website, which is michaelobrienshift.com, but I no longer send it out on an email. And so I changed the name to, I thought about this, like, what should I really call it? I think I want to be here. Uh, Flo does Flo, you're here. You do some great content. I was like, I really like, I want to be here. And what should I call my Substack? And then I decided I'm going to call it Milkshakes with Michael. And let me tell you a story about that. Actually, I have a milkshake. This is a coffee milkshake with Van Leeuwen ice cream, and I put some dashes of kefir in there, some yogurt, some good probiotic in there. So it's a relatively healthy milkshake. So let me tell you about milkshakes. So when I rode my bike across the country in 2022, we went from Astoria, Oregon, all the way to Washington, D.C. It was just me. My wife drove our RV. We had our two dogs at the time with us, Jester with a J and Hope. Unfortunately, Jester has passed away. He got to be an old guy. Hope is still with us, but she's an old gal. But the trip was magical. We saw the country, we met the people, we had moments of awe with the US's nature, the whole thing. And at the end of every leg, so I rode about 96 miles a day for 41 days, and I had a couple rest days. And at the end of each day, we tried to find a dairy bar and get a milkshake. And so I would go on Instagram Live when I was on Instagram, and I would do a segment called Milkshakes with Michael. And I would share what I experienced in that leg of the ride across America. I gave a little bit of a weather report. I gave a traffic report. I let people know if I ran into any animals. Luckily, I didn't run into many. So I really just talked about what I saw. I was trying to bring in 2022, I was trying to bring the country to people because I believe we live in a great country, even though we're hurting right now. I do think the people of this country, the nature of this country, they're worth fighting for. And so I would do a milkshake with Michael. In some towns, to to my surprise, didn't have any place to get ice cream. So we had an RV. I brought a blender. Sometimes we just used the ice cream that we had in the freezer of the RV, and I made a different type of milkshake every day. And one could say, well, okay, you wrote a lot. You deserve the calories. That's true. But to me, the milkshake represented a ritual, almost a celebration. We talk a lot about how we can do hard things. We talk a lot about like celebrating small wins. So at the end of the day, grabbing a milkshake was a mini celebration of the ride I did that day. And it was a chance to, in my language, hit pause, take a few breaths, and reflect on the day. And then with that reflection, share it with people. So it was a ritual of celebration. So the milkshake isn't just like a milkshake because I want to replenish my calories from training. It was it was a symbol of let's make sure as we go off and we do our thing that we take moments to celebrate before we move on to the next moment. Because so often we're so busy doing in this country. We get something done, we cross it off our to-do list. It becomes transactional, and then we're on to the next thing on our to-do list. We never hit pause. We never take a breath, and we don't, really reflect on what worked and what didn't. Hey, Christy. So my my profile, if you will, my handle, I guess, as you would call it, on Substack is now Milkshakes with Michael. It's a little bit of a tip to the tip of the hat to my ride across America, but it's also a reminder for all of us to make sure that we take little moments throughout the day as we get stuff done. Hit pause, take a few breaths, reflect, and then move on. We don't have to rush through life. We really have this wonderful gift, a wonderful invitation to experience life. And there's no way we can really fully experience it if we're rushing through it. So, a couple other things I want to share with you. Yesterday was a big day for me. My co author, Dr. Sean Andrews, and I launched or released, we didn't launch, we released our book, The 5 Levels of Male Allyship. And we woke today, it continues to be a bestseller. So, if you picked up a copy, thank you. This book is for any leader who in companies that care about culture. It's also for guys. Uh, The whole framework was something I created back in 2016, really to help us with creating better work culture. There's been recent Gallup news reports about Gallup studies rather that really show how troubling work is as far as mood, engagement, the divide between management and the people doing a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting. And we've also experienced a huge backlash on diversity, equity, inclusion efforts starting last year. And I will be the first one to say, having been in this space for over 20 years, that some of the practices since 2020 definitely missed the mark. There's too much blame, too much shame. And guys really didn't feel included in the conversation. And I sort of noticed this back in 2016, hence the reason why I came up with my archetypes. And Sean, my co-author, reached out at the end of 2024 and said, "Hey, let's do a book, and I want to use your foundation, your archetypes, as a foundation for the book." And here we are. We have the book. So this book is a great read if you care about bringing everyone in to the conversation about why culture matters at work. Then this book is for you. And I do believe this, that when we change how we work together, since we spend so much time at work, we will also change how we live together. So I'm psyched. woke up to that news, which is really, really cool. Also, a little bit of a fun fact or a little bit of a mini celebration, hence the milkshake today, is that I've been recovering from a crazy bike accident at the end of July, actually, the last day of July. And they predicted I would have like a 6 month recovery. I did a fitness test today just to see how I was doing, if I was back to baseline. And the great news is that I'm probably like 98% fully recovered. So I'm totally stoked about that. So, and it's been small steps along the way, small steps every day, very intentional. So that's the housekeeping I wanted to share with you. But I want to use these milkshake with Michael sessions also to talk about how do we weave mindfulness into our lives. And so this week, with the weather that we're having in a good part of the country, at least the weather we're having here in New Jersey, it hasn't been above freezing, I think, in 12 days, and it doesn't look like it's going to get above freezing anytime soon. And so there's a lot of snow and ice out there, and there's also a lot of worry and anxiety and rage and anger with some of the things that we see in this country, especially as it relates to ICE, what's happening in Minnesota, what's happening or not happening with the Epstein files. Like, there's a lot there. So there's a range of different emotions that we're all feeling. And then I thought of the poem by Robert Frost, the Fire and Ice poem. And I actually did a project on this poem back in seventh grade. My parents were really kind. I had a sort of a cheapo Kodak camera, and part of the project was for me, I wanted to take photos of icy situations, icy scenes in nature, also, fire as well. So they drove me around at all the different times I wanted to be driven around at the time to take photos. I wasn't too good at taking photos, but nevertheless, that was the project. But my poem, this poem was the one I picked. I can't remember why I picked it in seventh grade. It perhaps because it's only 9 lines, and I want to share it. Small steps and big impact. Yes, Flo. Yes. So I want to share the poem with you. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So got real short poem, but these lines, some say the world will end in fire. That's one person's opinion. Some say ice. So you already have a little conflict, right, in the poem, like who's right, and we have in this country, like who's right, who's wrong. And so what Frost is sharing with him, with the reader, is like, hey, I've experienced both. From what I've tasted of desire, so he's felt desire, and but he also knows enough about hate, right? He's experienced that, so he has one foot on each side of this debate. And often, I think we find ourselves like maybe fully on one side, but sometimes we can straddle the line, right? We experience both situation. And so the way, when I think about the start of last year, right? You think about how we started last year. There was a lot of fire, like literally and figuratively. Obviously, our nation's attention was on the California wildfires, and now in the month of January, we have a great focus on ice, right, and snow, and but he's not really talking about fire specifically, literally, or ice or snow, literally, maybe a little bit, but it's also bringing in sort of figuratively what these mean. And they actually tie to some Buddhist underpinnings. So fire is like ambition without restraint. It's the It's the hustle culture that we know of on the internet. It's like go, 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 consume, consume, consume more. It's growth without intentionality. It's growth without thought. So it's really fire can be seen as like overdoing, right? It can also be that pursuit of sensual desire, which is one of the first hindrances when it comes to Buddhism and the Buddhist underpinnings to mindfulness, like this desire to go and go and get more and get more and get more, to get another dopamine hit. Or if we believe that the world is finite, we want all of our stuff, right? As opposed to being infinite, which if you take that posture, you can say, well, there's plenty to go around, right? We live in an abundant world. But if you live in a world and you view the world through a lens of scarcity, or you see it as finite, you might be inclined to go after and just grab what's yours. And certainly we see people doing that today. Ice, on the other hand, is really about withdrawing. It's numbing ourselves. And we also see that too, right? So we see the fire of the protests of what's happening in Minnesota. We see the fire and rage and anger and frustration and irritation, all that with a lot of different things that are happening. But at the same time, there's groups of people that are withdrawing, they're overwhelmed, they're burnt out, they're retreating. And so when we have ice, it's almost a lack of caring, it's a lack of empathy or compassion, right? So now you can start to see with this poem is like, oh wow, like if we go after each other with a lot of fire, with a lot of hatred, right? Bad Bunny, I think, said it best during the Grammys. Like, basically, hatred is only going to give us more hatred, right? And so it consumes us, it contaminates us. I think, as he said. So we can go back and forth with a lot of ill will, which is also, part of one underpinning within Buddhism that we are, um, through our practice, we have awareness that really it's not about throwing ill will to someone. Hey, Lisa. So, but we can feel it right now, the fire that's like in our society. And we can also at the same time realize that there are groups of people where it's like, I've had enough. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going to retreat. So we have empathetic fatigue, or we just we're tuning out. We're ignoring things. We're numbing it. Uh, However you might want to look at it. But again, Frost says he's basically tasted he's tasted both. He's experienced both. It's like, I've tasted desire and I know enough of hate, right? He knows that both will lead to destruction. So, yes, we are all illegals living on stolen land. That's right. There's so much irony and with all this. Hey, Chris, good to see you. So this poem by Frost, it really, like, again, it's 9 simple lines. It does, like, it brings in, like, not, maybe not by design, but like elements of Buddhism, like this ill will, you know, is just going to consume us, burn like fiery red within us. And when that happens, it actually hurts us more than the person we're trying to throw this ill will towards, right? So he does offer, though, like, almost, he doesn't necessarily say it overtly, but he does offer a middle way, right? In Buddhism, we talk about a middle way, right? A middle path. And that middle path is like warmth with a bit of restraint. Enough heat to care, right? Enough heat to care, but with enough coolness to think. And so that's how our practice becomes so important, because we can feel this rage if we care about each other, if we feel like we're all connected, if we feel like we're all one. We see, so when something happens to one, it happens to all of us, and we can get very upset and angry, and we want to lash out, right? Uh, we might have ill will in our heart, and we want to throw that. I know this from my own personal experience coming through my accident. I had intense ill will toward the driver who hit me. I spent hours every day thinking about how I was going to get revenge on him, and it was consuming me. The thing is, when I was in my hospital room being consumed by this, he had no clue I was consumed by this, and it was hurting my recovery. It was actually harming my health, and so I had to learn how to find a middle way with, enough heat to care about my situation, but enough coolness to be thoughtful. And so with our practice, we hit pause, we take a few deep breaths. And when we do that, if the breath feels safe to do so, it could be sensation, it could be a sound in your soundscape. There are plenty of objects to offer our attention to. It's not simply just the breath. So it could be sound or a sensation in the body. But when we do that, we create some space. This quote is often tied to Viktor Frankl, although there's some debate whether or not he actually said it. But between stimulus and response, there's a space. You might know that one. So our practice of pausing, breathing, and reflecting creates or elongates that space. So now we can be more thoughtful. We still might have enough passion or heat to care, and that moves us from being on the couch into action, right? It's all energy. And so when we have that juice inside of us, it can consume us if we're not mindful. It can contaminate us, like Bad Bunny said, or we can use it as fuel to get off the couch and into some thoughtful action. And with this space, we can think about in that moment of reflection, what what's called for now? What should I say and do next in a very thoughtful, meaningful, intentional way? So that's how the practice really can help us in these moments. So it's not when we see injustice we observe injustice in the world, instead of overconsumption of the news, excuse me, we can be informed, we can have awareness, we can feel what we feel, and then we can take really purposeful action in a small way, or if you have a huge platform, in a bigger way. That's how we create a ripple effect that can benefit hopefully all of us and not just some of us. So I share that with you, fire and ice with you. I will also let you know that, as I mentioned earlier, I forgot to mention our book bestseller came out yesterday. The podcast, whole again, that's my podcast. The guest this week is Sean. So a wonderful human looking to be a better human to other humans. So I would encourage you to listen to my interview with Sean to learn more about her. If you don't already know who she is, she's a fantastic human and a great co-author. So, and I'm really psyched that we have a bestseller on our hands. But it's that's cool, but it's a bit of a merit badge, perhaps. But the big thing that I'm really stoked about is the potential that this book can change how we work together, and with that, hopefully, how we live together. So, so why don't we do this? I want to end just like with a couple minutes of meditation. This is a good one that I love. It's more of a grounding practice than, say, like a straight on meditation. But it really does help us like tap into our senses. That's how we experience life, through our senses. And when we get in our headspace a lot, it's great. It's a great practice to get like grounded, get out of our head into our senses, touching our heart. And so So I'll encourage you. I'm not sure how well this will work on Substack, but we'll make it work. We'll go with the flow. But wherever you happen to be, if you can be in a comfortable position, maybe you bring a sense of dignity to your posture. For this practice, we'll at least start with our eyes open because we'll tap in to our sense of vision if vision is accessible to you. And I'll invite you just to simply arrive. Just settle in. You might place your attention on an object like your breath or the sounds that you hear. Allow yourself to come into this moment. Just allow yourself to soften, slow things down. You've probably been rushing through the day, noticing your body starting to relax. Maybe you can sense your heart is beating a bit slower. Maybe your breathing is also slowing down. And we'll first begin by tapping into our sense of sight. So I'll encourage you to look around your environment and just name 5 things you can see. They might be an object that you see all the time. Maybe you see it like you're seeing it for the first time right now. Or maybe you notice something completely new. So take this moment to name 5 things. All right. Now we'll tap into our sense of feel by naming 4 things we can feel right now. It might be how you're making contact with the chair. It could be the temperature. It might be something within the body you feel or within the mind. What are 4 things you can feel? And now we'll tap in to our sense of sound if hearing is accessible to you by naming 3 things you can hear right now. You might hear the clock ticking or traffic outside. At this hour, it might be your tummy rumbling. There are 3 things you can hear. And now, what are 2 things you can smell right now? Now, finally, what's 1 thing you can taste? And within mindfulness, within Buddhism, there's a 6th sense, tuning into what's present within our heart. So I encourage you to draw or bring your attention to your heart and notice what's here. What's the weather of your heart? What do you notice? And when you begin to feel ready, you can start to ease your attention. I hope you enjoyed the practice. This one is on my app. It's a free download in Apple's App Store and in Google Play. It's called Pause, Breathe, Reflect. I can taste my milkshake. So this is, I guess, the first edition of Milkshakes with Michael. I appreciate you all joining. We'll have a live meditation practice on Friday at 12 p.m. It's a loving kindness or a meta practice. We try to do it every Friday. It's a beautiful practice to pour into others and also pour into yourself. And then we'll have practices on most Mondays. So my schedule this month is a little wonky due to some travel, but we will certainly make space for meditation so we can practice together in our circle. We can practice together in our Sangha, and in our circle, we are stronger together. So, love you all for showing up. Thanks for joining me on my second live on Substack. And I think that this second pancake I like to think was better than the first pancake. So we get better over time, I hope. So thanks for joining and thanks for your patience. Peace.